Okay, here is part 2 of showing the ionic bond. So we'll do an example first, and then we will list the steps to doing so. The first example that we'll do is lithium bromide. So this is an ionic compound, a compound being made up of more than one atom. This is made up of one atom of lithium and one atom of bromine. How do we know it's 1 and 1? Well, here and here, there are no subscripts. So it's understood that those subscripts are 1. Our first step that we're going to do to show an ionic compound being formed is we're going to draw the Lewis dot diagram for each element. So I'm going to draw the Lewis dot diagram for lithium. And if you look at your periodic table, find lithium, and lithium is in group 1. So therefore, we know that lithium has 1 valence electron. The next is bromine. And when it enters into a compound, it actually gets changed to bromide. So this is where you have fluorides, chlorides, all your ides. It's still the same element, but now it's in a compound. So find bromine on your periodic table. And bromine is found in group 17. So therefore, it has 7 valence electrons. Okay. Earlier, we said that ionic bonds are formed by transferring valence electrons. So what happens is lithium, it can become stable in 2 different ways. We talked about how lithium could gain 7 or it could lose 1. Gaining 7 is really difficult, impossible for lithium to do. So lithium is going to give 1. So lithium is going to give 1 to bromine. Bromine has 7. 8 is the magic number of valence electrons, so it's 1 over. We draw the yield arrow. The next thing that we do is we just show the ions. So I'm going to draw lithium, no valence electrons, no dots, because it gave it up to bromine. And outside the bracket, I'm going to put its charge. Its charge is now 1 plus because it lost 1 valence electron. So remember that charge is always the opposite of what happens. That charge is not addition and subtraction. That charge lets you know what does it have more of. And don't think in terms of, gaining and losing protons. We're thinking about gaining and losing valence electrons. The next ion we have is bromine or bromide. And I'm going to draw 8 dots around it because now it got 1 from lithium. So what happened to it? It got 1 more negative charge. And now let's go ahead and let's diagram the steps. So the first thing that we did is the first thing that we did is we drew the Lewis dot diagram. So you look on the periodic table, you look at the group number, and you draw the appropriate number of valence electrons. That's a skill that you should already know how to do. Step number 2, since this is an ionic bond and it transfers electrons, you show the transfer. Okay, so what step was that? That's the step where we showed the transfer with this transfer arrow right here. Step 3 might seem a little insignificant, but it is not. You want to draw your yield arrow. Oops, draw. That's this arrow right here. And then the very last step, the most important part is this is ionic bonding, so we're going to draw the ions. And we draw the ions, we put the symbol, and then we put brackets around the symbol. And then we wrote either a positive or negative charge based on what it was. Just throwing some vocab in there. Remember that your positive ion is called the cation, not cation or cation. And remember, this negative one is called the anion. Okay, so in part 3, I will do another example.